Today I want to talk about status battles, and specifically what I want to focus on is the way that status is built in conversation. So what you're about to watch is an interview between Theo and Bill Burr. Theo recently had Bill Burr on his podcast. Before the podcast, he cited Bill as one of his all-time favorite comedians. Throughout the entire podcast, he was trying very hard to connect with Bill. He was trying to make Bill laugh. He was trying to make Bill like him. It didn't work, and you're going to see a lot of conflict right now, which is perhaps the best examples of how status is created. It's the most apparent examples. And so I'm going to break this stuff down and analyze it. We're going to watch frames being established, shifted, broken. We're going to watch them being battled for, and all of this in the attempt to promote and build status. And so we're going to get into this right now.
You got to toughen up, man.
Yeah, you're right, huh?
You know,
what do I do?
Camouflage hat, looking like a fucking backwoods guy, all tough and shit. You can't handle doing your hour again. I mean, come on, man. Suck it up.
So Theo just got done telling Bill that he's having a rough time on his tour, that he's getting tired quickly, and Bill is calling him out. Bill is establishing the frame that Theo isn't being tough. And so you're going to see in a second that Theo responds perfectly to this.
All tough and shit. You can't handle doing your hour again. I mean, come on, man. Suck it up.
Fuck, man. I think I need some blood transfusions or something.
Essentially what this response is, and what makes it so good, is the fact that it's not defensive, right? Theo didn't just try to defend against Bill and try to show how tough he is. He's actually agreeing with Bill. He even just made a joke about it and said, yeah, I actually need a blood transfusion. I'm so tired. And the fact that he did this, it's going to make Bill go back on his position. Bill is now going to even begin listing arguments in favor of the fact that Theo should be taking time off because it's probably dangerous for his health. It's not good to push yourself that hard, whatever. And so you're going to watch this happen. And why is this occurring? This is occurring because of Theo's response.
I mean, come on, man. Suck it up.
Fuck, man. I think I need some blood transfusions or something. I really do, bro. I don't know what happened.
No, but
to
it's
me.
not bad if there's the other side too, where you're getting run down and you don't listen to it and then you get sick. So there's always that. Or work yourself to death, which I've seen a few people do in this business, literally died.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, well, you're in touch with your feelings. That's good.
And so you could see how powerful that non-defensive response is. It essentially just shifted Bill's entire frame. And so this is the response that you want to try to embody the majority of the time. The majority of the time, a non-defensive response is your best strategy. But there are some exceptions. We'll look at them in a little bit. Right now, I want to show you another example where Theo doesn't respond as well. He does become defensive, and you're going to see a much different response from Bill.
He knows goddamn well I don't have a weapon. Why are you doing this?
You don't? You wouldn't have a gun. I don't think it's obtuse, really, to think you might have a weapon in there with you.
Theo just got done asking Bill if he keeps a gun in his helicopter. Bill flies for fun. It's a hobby of his. It's leisure. He's learning how to fly helicopters. And this is the question Theo asks him. And Bill's response, Bill is putting out the frame that that's a dumb question. Bill's response was, I don't really have to answer that, do I? And then he looked at Theo and said, why are you doing this? Implying, why are you asking me such a dumb question? And so you can see that Theo recognizes this frame immediately. And he says, I don't think that's an obtuse question. I'm going to replay that. I want you to pay attention to it. This is a defensive response.
I don't think it's obtuse, really, to think you might have a weapon in there with you.
So that's a defensive response. I don't think it's obtuse to think you have a weapon in there with you. I don't think the question I just asked you is dumb. And look at Bill. Look at the way Bill is looking at Theo. He bobbed his head a little. He's giving him a little eyebrow raise. His head is slightly slanted. And so now they're engaged in a frame battle.
I don't think it's obtuse, really, to think you might have a weapon in there with you. Think about it.
Yeah, think about it.
Okay, all right.
You think about it.
All right. All right, man.
All right, and Theo just lost. He broke his frame. He said, think about it. Bill looked back at him and said, you think about it. And Theo submitted. He acknowledged that Bill is right, that if he really thought about it and really tried to understand if it's a dumb question or not, he would agree with Bill. He laughs as a submission and as an agreement with Bill. And so Bill just won this frame battle. And now what you're going to see happen is really interesting. I want you to pay really close attention right now.
Think about it.
Yeah, think about it.
Okay, all right.
You think about it.
All right. All right, man. Just a small gun, dude. Just a handpiece.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Fine, Bill.
All right, you heard that? He said, okay, fine. find Bill. And what is this right now? What is Theo doing? He is establishing a new frame. He's admitting to the fact that Bill was right, find Bill, but by emphasizing Bill, it's very subtle, but he's saying like, fine, you're right, but you're being a dick. The new frame is, Bill, you're being a dick. And Bill is going to recognize this and he's going to respond to it. And Bill is going to become defensive. You're going to see Bill begin to laugh and then justify himself. And so what I want to clarify, I already told you that there's exceptions to the generalization, right? There's always exceptions to generalizations, but right now this is the exception. This is a defensive response from Bill, you're going to see, but it's a response that works.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Fine, Bill.
It's just a fucking ridiculous question.
I thought it would be.
You bringing Uzi up there when you fly? Fly is a hobby.
You heard that, right? Bill just laughed and justified. It's such a ridiculous question. He's defending the fact that he's not being a dick. Theo's saying, find Bill, and Bill's like, look, it's just a ridiculous question. It's a defensive response, but Bill actually wins. And how do you know he wins? Pay attention to this.
Fine, Bill.
It's just a fucking ridiculous question.
I thought it would be.
You bring a ridiculous question.
I thought it would be.
You bringing Uzi up there when you fly? Fly is a hobby.
And so Theo just accepted Bill's frame. You can hear him saying, yeah, well, I thought it would be funny. And I'm going to break down the frame progression on this. So essentially, Theo put out the frame that, Bill, you're being a dick for calling me out for asking that question. And Bill's frame, his response was, I'm not being a dick, it was just a ridiculous question. And Theo's response to that was, yeah, well, I thought it would be funny. He validated the frame. Yes, it was a ridiculous question, and the reason I asked it is because I thought it would be funny. And so Theo loses another frame battle. And what I want you to take from this is the understanding that status is built through the establishment of frames. And I want you to begin to build a general awareness of frames into your life. And so if Theo had that awareness, if he understood some core principles of frames, he could have prevented all of this. And in fact, if he understood how to recognize and identify other people's values, he could have prevented the frame battles from happening in the first place. And I'm going to make another video on that because it's super important when you're interacting with people to recognize their values, to identify what their values are, and then you can connect in mutually meaningful ways and there won't be such a disconnect between you. By the end of this interview, Bill had almost no respect left for Theo.
Did you ever donated sperm or anything like that when you were coming up as a comedian?
Nope, and I don't have a gun in my helicopter. But I want to thank you for having me.
You bet.
And helping me promote my special. I just have to get home
worries,
because
man.
my kid's getting up from the nap and it's my watch.
I love it. I love your attitude.
Hey, I love everything that you're doing. I'm so happy for you and all your
thanks,
success.
man. You're always supportive.
You're doing it. Just expand. Don't be afraid to get into business with people. Get a good lawyer. All right?
I like
all
your
right, buddy.
attitude. All right, thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
And you could see that that is a really rough note to end on. I really sympathize with Theo. This must have been rough for him, especially considering that he cited Bill as his all-time favorite living comedian. Bill was his hero, and there was such a disconnect between them. The entire interview was just bumpy and disharmonious, and there was a lot of moments when they clashed. They felt uncomfortable with one another. There was just tons of disharmony. And this really highlights the importance of understanding social frames. Even as a comedian, Theo's a very socially adept and socially proficient person. He understands a large amount of how social interactions work, and he's normally very good at interacting with people and controlling the flow of interactions. But he doesn't understand the core principles of frames. He doesn't understand how he's communicating certain things to Bill. He's not able to explicitly articulate these things. And so he's going to be caught off guard when he begins to get emotional because he's not going to understand how to regulate those emotions within an appropriate explicit framework. So in the future, I'm going to lay this stuff out in more detail. I'm going to lay out some strategies that you can use to successfully navigate interactions. And the majority of what I'm going to be doing is touching on dating and relationships, but all of this stuff is applicable to social interactions because essentially dating and relationships are couched within a social framework. And so that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the future.